Okay, our first senior. I'll talk a little bit more about Jaden in a little bit, but our first senior, Jaden Wilson. What I've always loved about Jaden is his smile, first and foremost, and it doesn't have to be on his face, but it's with his attitude. I mean, you are never low on energy when you're around Jaden. So much so that having the morning practices this year, I could always count on him. I don't know if he had 6, 7 cups of coffee before he got there, but he had a ton of energy when he would come in. And I'll talk a little bit more about Jaden with some other awards. But I hope that when Jaden looks back on his career, I don't know if he would tell you he was ecstatic about how he performed this season, but what I want him to take away from this season is the way that he led his team, both in warm-ups, on the track. When I'd ask him to run in relays, he was the first one to say, "You bet," and just grab his spikes and go on over. And in throws, Jaden is a heck of a leader, a heck of a character, and I've enjoyed having him over the course of his career. Jaden Wilson, come on up. Malik's not here, so I want to recognize about halfway, maybe earlier on in the season, Malik had to start driving to DeForest, or home from DeForest, all the way down near Oregon. So for Malik to be able to commit enough time to be able to take care of some things that he needed to take care of to still be able to compete, I appreciated the veracity in which he kept asking the questions as to how do I get able to do this, how do I get able to do this, and he was able to do it at the last meet of the year. So I want to just recognize with his varsity runner, Malik Victory. Matthew had come off a very, very impressive cross-country campaign, put in some good mileage over the winter, so I was really looking forward to the depth he was going to offer us in the distance area. Unfortunately, probably 3-4 weeks into the season, hot spots in the bottom of his foot kind of flared up that potentially could lead to a stress fracture, so we had to put him on a bike. And I think the only thing that drives me more nuts than having to ride a bike indoors is to tell someone that I know that loves running to go ride a bike indoors. He did it. He even came and asked for some alternative swimming workouts, which I don't hand out a ton of, mainly because I don't always trust that people know how to swim right to be able to do it. But Matthew had spent some time, I think, early on in his high school years swimming at some point in time, so I knew he'd be able to do it, and he went after that as well. He was able to come back also from chest illness and run for us at the conference meet. Probably was not thrilled with his performance, he would tell you there, but now we learned this week he gets one more shot at it. And I've not seen a smile on his face that big when I told him that he'd be running at the state meet, because he was our alternate in 4x8. So coming up, still to come, Matthew Vandermeer. I'll talk more about Brian in a minute. I've talked about Brian a long time, and I'll tell this story real quick. I don't know if I ever told you this story, but a crew boss of his on a concrete company came up to me 3 years ago it was the summer after his freshman year of high school, and asked, "Tell me about this cells kit." And me and this fellow, we speak pretty plainly, and I looked at him and I just said, you gotta trust him. You just gotta trust him. He's a little on the fringe at times, but you gotta trust him. 2 summers later, when I ran into the same guy, he looked at me and said, "My God, has that kid done some growing up?" And I told him I always knew it was there, But I'll talk more about Brian here in a minute. But Brian's a member of our 4x1 school record team, a member of our 4x2 school record team, and I couldn't be more thrilled because after last year's, I'm going to call it an anemic season when it came to meets, we show up at the sectional meet thinking, you know, we got a shot. We were running with a guy that was a little bit banged up, but you know, you just got to trust the kids. And I could tell there was no one more disappointed to not get to state last year than Brian Sells. So for him and a couple of guys that he was able to come back to that meet with and qualify for the state meet, I'm over the moon about it. So Brian, come on up and get your varsity. He's also the first kid that's ever asked if they could race at the state meet in a halter top. That was awesome. Let's see what I can learn. I hope that when Avery looks back on his season, he will see it as a success. I can tell you it's been a roller coaster for him. He's been really, really happy at times. He's been really, really disappointed at times. But when we were able to just focus on the task at hand, it was my job not to distract him with asking him to run some relays and bang up his shins anymore. He came up, you know, if you were to, I was at practice when Coach Bauer was walking with him. I don't know, it was like a Saturday. And I've never seen a kid whose head was down as bad as Avery's was after the conference meet. To be able to shut that door and walk down the dark hall and come out into the light that he was able to do, to brush it off and be able to perform and do what he needed to do at the regional meet to set him up for success at the sectional meet. I hope he can walk away and use that knowledge that he can do that in any aspect of his life. It doesn't take an athletic event to do that, but perseverance is critical when it comes to success in life. And Avery Perrick's a walking epitome of it. Thank you, bud. Only had him for a couple of meets, coming off a broken leg. Want to recognize, and then ended up with a stress fracture in his leg again. Want to recognize Kevin Bagley for his varsity. I think that character is really a theme with this senior class. I mean, everybody's going to be able to look back at this and say, oh, I went through COVID and I did that. To be able to do that and not come out of it bitter, that's what's most impressive about this senior class to me. To be able to take what they've gotten and earned and felt gratitude about it. One person that he's climbed a mountain this year. Some family strife in the fall when I had him in cross. I know that he worked a ton of hours, but when he showed up to track and field was his life. He loved the hurdles. He loved helping others in the hurdles. He only triple jumped when I asked him to because he's just an athlete. And I think in hindsight, if I'd known that his legs would end up like shredded cheese by the end of the season, I would have asked him to triple jump. But I'm not sure that would have stopped him from offering to triple jump. He's not able to be here tonight, but he emailed me this morning that he wasn't going to and was very, very sorry about it. But he's a leader on the track, he's a leader on the bus, he's a leader at his house. I think that G has a lot more great things in front of him, so I want to recognize Emily. I think you're going to come up and get his award. Trevor here? I didn't see him. Every year we get a first-year track athlete, 2 or 3 of them, as a senior. And I really appreciated the enthusiasm that Trevor brought to the track team. He got a little banged up with his knee and his lower leg. And then he got sick at the end of the season, so he couldn't finish at the JV conference meet. But if you run into Trevor, tell him I appreciate it. Thank you. Some more athletic adversity. So, those of you that don't know cross country, you score the cross country meet by the place that you're in the race. The lowest team score wins. Cross country sectionals, we missed state by 1 point. And there were two guys, I'll talk about both of them here in a little bit, but there were two guys that I feel like carried more weight on their shoulders than they needed to. Fast forward into the swim season, one of those guys was swimming. And at the sectional meet, I was able to go watch. He was on a relay. To qualify for state in swimming, you have to either win your sectional or be in the next 14 fastest times in the state. 15. Or excuse me, yeah, they were the 15th fastest time. Missed it by a point, 2, something. So that was a heartbreak. So when it came down to the sectional meet for Dylan in the 4x8, he asked what was the order of the 4x8 going to be. And I knew Jackson could run fast. I would not have predicted that Jackson was going to run what he ran, but I knew he was going to run faster than the 2:08, 2:09. So that was what we did. I put Jackson third, and I told Dylan he needed to anchor. And I don't think I've ever seen somebody really, the fear on his face when I told him that. I don't think he went himself, but if somebody could have, it would have been right there. He got the baton, and we were, I think we were in second or third at the time. Third. And we had a sizable lead on the team that beat us by 1 point in cross country. We were in front of us. And so I was standing back over the 200, and Dylan came around, and I've not seen fear in a kid's eyes like that. He was a running ball of muscle. I mean, shoulders were up to his ears, and he's just eyes. It was awesome. And I just kept yelling, shoulders down, shoulders down. And that West kid took off. He closed what was probably an 8-second gap down to about a 4-second gap in 300 meters. And I'm just watching. And I'm watching Dylan. And I'm watching the West kid. And I'm watching Dylan. Dylan ran a perfect race. He ran within himself, and he ran a lifetime best of a 2:02. And for him to be able to anchor that and beat the Madison West team that beat us in cross, those two seniors on that team, I could not have felt better for. But Dylan King included. I look forward. Last year, Aiden came out for track, I think mainly just because his sisters decided to do it, and he thought, yeah, sure, why not? His family was going to go on they did end up going, I remember we were at the triple duel up in Baraboo, and Aiden had a great day out there. And I think I accidentally put him in 4 running events that day too, which you're not allowed to do when you're as thick-headed and I overlook some of those things sometimes accidentally. But Aiden did it without complaining. Ended up, I think, seeing a little bit of a spark in himself, a little bit of potential that he thought, hey, is there any way that if we get back from Florida early enough, because, you know, I was told that, you know, this would be his last meet, so I thought, hey, this is a great last meet for you. And he said, any way that we could maybe get you into the regional meet. I think it was the regional meet, right? You guys came back from Florida. And he had a great meet there. And he ended up being an alternate on one of the relays, or both of the relays, I think, at the regional and sectional meet. But it wet the whistle enough for him to be able to say, I know what I want to do next year. And boy, did he get after it. He's fast. And I think he's arguably probably top 6 fastest kids I've ever coached or possibly ever been here at the high school. His his PR of 11.3, right, 11.36, 11.3, somewhere around there. I think it would have been, in most record boards, that would have been on it. We have a 100-meter dash record that, I'll be happy to take it down when it goes down, simply because I'm not 100% sure it ever existed. But I wasn't alive at the time. I was very young and spry, so 1979 was well before my years. But Aiden, to have the season, I'll talk more about Aiden here in a little bit, but to have the season he had and to appreciate every single day that he was there. I know early on in the season, a couple of morning practices, it was tough for him to get up and come in. But to battle through what him and his family had gone through, and to be able to come out here and perform at such a high level is impressive. But I think it speaks to your focus and your determination to perform both for yourself, but also for your team, and most importantly for your family. Come on up, man. Coming off of his junior year, about halfway through the track season, he had not come out for track, and he's like, came up to me at a meet about halfway through the season and said, "Hey, do you mind if I still join the track team?" I'm like, because I'd had him in both cross country and had him previously in track, I enjoyed his company. I enjoyed that he enjoyed the company of the track team. So I invited him with open arms, and this season started from the word go. I think my favorite memory right now of Caden, other than watching his leadership grow over the years, was to watching his belief in himself. I don't remember where it was, Caden, maybe you can help me out, but where you ran your fastest mile. What meet was that at? Yeah, the Stoughton invite, yep. And we had talked about a game plan about who he was going to try and stay with. And I had not seen him race with that confidence and belief in himself in just about any of the track events. I started seeing it some in cross country, but to see it build in track was really, really special for me, because I feel like as seniors finish out their career, they can either do one of two things. They can pack their bags and say thanks for the ride, or they can say, hey, this is my last go around, let's make it worth it. And I think Caden here did that. And I really appreciated that about him. So earning his varsity letter in track, Caden here. A man of many talents. I think that Dugan is an epitome of a student athlete. He's the only young man that I've had, well, I shouldn't say only, one of a half dozen maybe, over the years that have point blank said, I need to go home and get ready for this test. I need to focus on, he had, I don't know, 15 AP exams this spring, I think. Did he leave?
I'm taking part.
Oh, you're picking it up? Okay. Well, he was here earlier, but I want to recognize that Dugan would do anything I asked of him. When I asked him to jump on a relay at a high-level varsity meet, he did not bat an eye. When he was long jumping up at the indoor meet up in Beaver Dam, you know, he was getting outperformed, but every time I asked him to try something different in his approach, he would apply the exact same intensity as the guys that were jumping 19, 20 feet. So one thing I appreciate about Dugan was his ability to be himself, both in the classroom and in track and field. I want to give him his varsity letter. Dugan has to. So speaking of getting back to that 4x8, when so Jackson knows his body. He's a former, or he is a black belt. How many level black belt? 17. Third degree? Yeah, okay. Black belt. So I know Jackson knows his body, and he's one of those guys that after the cross-country season, I think beat himself up more than he deserved. And so coming into the the track season, I was really excited to see how fit he was early on. Almost to the point where I was like, hey, I don't think we need to be racing that hard on an indoor track. So I think I was pumping the brakes on a couple of his races and maybe earlier than he would have liked it. But he was running some great times up at the lacrosse meet, ran a 2 flat in the open 8. And run a couple of 52 splits on the 4x4. I mean, he was one of those guys that when I looked at the conference honor roll that we create going into the conference meet, I could slot him into 3 or 4 different spots and he would be earning me 6, 8, maybe 10 points in those areas. So he's one of those guys that when he came up to me at the conference meet, he said, my foot is trashed. I can't run on it. He knows his body best. I mean, I've never seen an injury like what he has. I have no clue what it is. The doctors say it's plantar fasciitis, but I've never seen plantar fasciitis do that before. So I was like, and when he came up to me after the conference meet, he said, my career's done. I need to be done. My heart broke because that's not how I want my athletes to feel when they walk away from track and field. So I said, well, let me at least throw you on as an alternate. You know, for the 4x8, I don't know if I ended up doing it on the 4x4 or not as well, but let's throw you on, and if you feel good and we get through regionals, let's give it a go. If your foot is feeling good, you got to tell me. So that's what we did when we got through the regional meet. I mean, there are years with the regional meet, it takes 8:09 to get out of our region. This year, we only had to run an 8:33 to be 4th and beat one. And so that felt good that he got that time rest. So when I spoke to him on that Tuesday, it must have been, asked him what the reality of his foot was, it was with great excitement when there was light in his eye again. Yeah, I think I can do it. And I didn't ask him to run a PR. I was not interested in him running a PR. I wanted him to run faster than a 2:08. And he was much more comfortable running 3rd, so that's what we did. Now I did tell him I thought maybe he should run in his trainers rather than spikes just to save his foot. So when I saw him grab the baton, I mean, he didn't have his bright yellow racing or trainers on and he had a pair of black spikes, I worried a little bit. But when he came around, and I mean, he got after the Madison West kid. And just annihilated. I mean, it was great. It was a lot of fun to watch. I try to give hugs to as many seniors as I can when they're done with their career at the event. But I haven't felt a gratifying hug as much as I felt from Jackson that day. And so if that's his last race of his career, I could not have written a better storybook in there for him. So thank you, Jackson. Come on. I feel like Caleb has been contributing at the varsity level. I think he has every single year that he's run for me. I mean, guys tend to take a year to get used to the varsity level. No other sport, very few other sports I should say, do you throw 14, 15-year-olds in the mix with 18 or 19-year-olds. There's a reason that there are different levels in different sports. You have a freshman basketball team. Caleb has been a varsity contender since day one. And he's a student of track and field. I mean, he probably can tell you, rattle off more PRs of competitors than I keep spreadsheets of. He studies the sport, he loves the sport. My only wish for him was that we could get him, I could twist the arm of the Wisconsin people and let him walk on up there. I'm going to still probably send some emails if he's interested. But I was thrilled when Caleb was able to be on that record-setting 4x1 team up at Dells, because that means that what he has contributed to the team over the years now at least gets to stand for all to see for some time. Last year he sacrificed a little bit. He ran the 4x8 for me to get to state. He ran the 400 to get to state. He ran the 4x4 to get to state. And it wore on him at the state meet. And And this year we committed that he was going to be able to perform at his best at the state meet. And so that's why he ended up focusing on the 400 when he could have probably qualified in the 200 or helped us on the 4x8 or on the 4x2 or on the 4x1. I was committed to allowing him to see what he could do at the state level in the open 4. I'll talk a little bit more about Caleb here in a little bit, but for now I'll just say thank you. And our final senior had some ups and downs this year. I think that is an easy way of putting it. But another kid that he decided, I don't know if it was early season, your junior year, or mid-season, but definitely by the end of the season, he was going to be a thrower. And then it wasn't just I was going to score for the varsity, it turned into I want to throw at the next level too. And so I've never seen a kid put in the reps that he was putting in. Like I got an email from him, January or February, asking for the indoor implements so that he could be throwing just in any open space that he could find with all the construction. I still don't know 100% sure where it was coming, but he wanted the reps, and he went to the throws camps. He started studying things online, and you know, cell phones are great. And I was standing in the gym, and he say, "Hey, how about filming me?" And so he can analyze himself, but he can predict what he did before he looks at the video. So to turn into such a student of those events so quickly just spoke to the dedication that Cam gave himself. He had an unbelievable. Coach Wolf texted me. I'm up in the booth trying to get the computer running for the regional meet. I could, feel the buzz on my watch and look down. All it says is first throw 130 feet. I mean, that alone could have made my night. But then to hear he was able to throw 48 something in the shot put too and put it all together, I felt great. Felt great for him. My heart broke for him in sections. It really did, because you want good things to happen to good people. And every good thing should be happening to Camden Dixon from this day forward. So for that, thanks. If you want to take a few pictures of the senior class, you'll be missed, guys.